morning, everyone. You're welcome once again to an exciting edition of Your Business on Rave TV. And of course, I'm your host, Cindy Eze. All right, today we're going to be looking at the Internet of Things. We know that from the industrial renaissance period until now, the internet had continued to revolve. Technology has taken a very drastic spin. Now we are looking at Internet of Things. So we're going to be examining what does it really mean? What is the future for us here in Nigeria, especially as regards businesses? To join me in this discussion is Mr. Festus Akobundu. He is the Media Director of Mainsail Media Nigeria Limited. You're welcome back. Internet of Things. How ready are businesses? Joining me to discuss this in the studio this morning is Mr. Festus Akobundu. He is the Media Director, Mainsail Media Nigeria Limited. You're welcome.
Thank you, Cindy, for having me.
I'm so excited to have you in the studio this morning. So excited. Okay, Mr. Festus, Internet of Things. How did we get here? Where did it begin?
So first of all, I'm not a subject matter expert, but I'm an enthusiast. I'm a technology enthusiast, number one. Number two, and I like reading, I like the future, and I like reading ahead to understand what's coming. And so on the basis of those two, and on the basis that I also had applied sciences as part of my initial background, technology had interested me over time. And I've tried to understand how we all arrived at this point and where it's all going to. Yeah. So, not to waste much time, the earliest I can tell you about internet is the internet was a military warfare platform. It was not even meant for the consumer. It was born shortly between about the time the Second World War was ending. So there was this popular machine, according to the story, that Germans were using to operationalize the war, Second World War, by Adolf Hitler. And the Western Allied countries were trying to crack it. And they couldn't. They brought everybody. They brought data analysts, they brought psychologists, they brought all kinds of people, mathematicians, statisticians. They brought them trying to decode that machine. And one brilliant individual, a British guy, then decided to build a machine. And then told them that, you know what, I think I need a machine to understand a machine. And from then, internet was born.
Machine to machine.
Machine to machine. So machine speaking to machine. You can watch that. There's a movie that I'm sure there's a movie about it called The Imitation Game. You can check it. I think I've always shared that before. So post Second World War, most countries who had focused on using internet or using technology as a means of warfare, spiritual warfare, started refocusing it into mainstream consumer space. And it didn't take off until about the 60s and the 70s when certain things started evolving. We had the telephone, we had computer. Again, all of them started from the business space. So you must understand where it's also...
So it was like from the industrial
to the consumer space. Yeah. So that's where all of them started from. And as this was evolving, the internet was used by NASA and by the American Secret Service to monitor things remotely. So it wasn't even in the consumer space until somebody commercialized this. Okay, so that's how we, had evolved over time. And then in the 90s, in the 80s / the 90s, certain individuals, you must have heard of Dell, head of Apple, and Steve Jobs, decide to unbundle the computer into the consumer space. Because then again, when the computer was even done, it was done for business. So it was sitting in business offices. I'm sure if you remember, yes, in the early 90s to late 90s, most of the computers you had were desktop were either in offices or in business houses. So that's how it started.
They had the storage different.
Absolutely, and they had these, exactly. So all that has, look at the time it took us, but all that has sped up and has evolved into a space where now we're into cloud computing. We're talking of personal laptops. We're even moving into personal handset. We're now even going now, so which is bringing us all to the Internet of Things. Okay, pause. So let me explain what we mean by Internet of Things, because for our listeners out there, Internet of Things has been here since about, I can remember personally, I think 2008 or thereabouts.
In the world or just in Nigeria?
In the world.
Okay.
Internet of Things have been here since about 2008. And it was born as a function of the Internet of People. And people, and a lot of people don't understand that, even those who kick against Internet of Things don't understand that we're already in Internet of People. So Internet of People was...
So we already had the people interaction.
Absolutely, you understand it. That's what it exactly means. So based on the platform that the Internet brought, so all information you need are already there. So social media brought interaction, bridged the knowledge gap, bridged the distance gap, and suddenly you're sitting here in Nigeria, you're interacting with somebody in Indonesia, who's interacting with somebody in Japan, who's interacting with somebody. So the interaction and the conversation has just become borderless. Businesses are spiraled out of control. So now there is a lot of opportunity for people just by the fact that there's this platform that enables us to interact. But we are not the first to get there. Actually, things, which is now, when we use the word things, are all the objects that we use, that humans use to make our lives easier. Yeah. So when you talk about Internet of Things, you're not asking. The next question is say, so how would we understand how Internet of Humans happen? Okay.
The phone lines are open now. So please, let's hear you. We want to know what your questions are. We also want to know your contributions. Okay.
Okay. So, so the Internet of People is already happening, and everybody's on it. Virtually everybody, unless you don't have access to data. And what has driven it? Data. Data is the backbone of the Internet of People, which we are currently doing. And so data will be the backbone for the Internet of Things, which is already here. So let me explain. About 2018, the world had produced about 9 billion objects that have Internet of Things, that are Internet of Things compliant. And it's estimated that about this year, end of this year, the world would have produced 20 billion units of appliances that are Internet of Things compliant. What it simply means is that we have appliances, I can tell you for your cell phone. Yeah. Your cell phone has sensors. Your cell phone knows when you put it on. It knows when you put it off. It knows where you go. It knows what you do. It knows if you're sleeping, if you're working. Your cell phone knows. That is a sensor. Now imagine, my cell phone also knows. So imagine that if we were to give, both phones were to then interact and talk to each other. That's what they call Internet of Things. The interaction between inanimate things that we are currently using. Most of them already have sensors. Your water heater, your refrigerator, your AC, most of them already have sensors. But you see, the problem we have is that those sensors are not currently talking to each other.
So is it something called probably networking?
No. So just, okay, yeah, you can call it networking, but not networking in that sense. So let me explain a bit further. You know how we currently interact in the internet space. Okay. So on social media, you can talk, I don't need to know you. You can sit in New Zealand and we can become friends. You can send me a friend request, I can talk. Yes. Then I can actually run a business. I can spin ideas off you. Yeah? And based on our interaction, and based on this multiple interaction across borders, the system or the platform can itemize and predict and depict things and say this can happen, this can happen. Like one of the advantages of the Internet of Things is that they can say, for argument's sake, when people are planning something, how do you think that they pick up? It's because they are monitoring those conversations. Yeah. Absolutely. So imagine, take that Internet of Humans and Internet of People, and when things start talking to each other. Yeah? So the things we're currently building now have all the sensors. What we have not given them is the platform, just the way we have Internet of people for Internet of Things, for them to start talking to each other. So let me give you a classic. Let me just now, narrow it down.
Okay, before you give that question, let me chip in this.
Yes.
Do you think that what we had recently, the COVID-19 pandemic,
yes,
fast forwarded?
Absolutely. You're so spot on. So if the world was going at the Internet of Things,
are we ready? If that is what happened, are we ready?
Okay, you know why I smiled.
Okay.
First of all, COVID had exposed companies, organizations, countries to the fact that we are behind the curve in getting up to speed with the Internet of Things, number one. Because for companies that cannot resourcefully run their operations remotely, COVID showed that you are behind the curve. The companies that survived post-COVID.
So some companies were already on it?
Absolutely. That's why most of the Chinese companies were able to manage, during the COVID period and still make profits. Some companies are still posting profit during the COVID period. Remember,
the phone lines are open, so we want to hear your questions and your contributions towards what we are saying right now.
Yeah. So COVID kind of exposed it. Again, COVID, I believe, is now pushing companies to think more strategic about the use of internet and the use of making sure that things are talking to each other. And let me say this to you: are we ready? As the question
yes, especially in Nigeria, our business is ready.
Based on my personal experience, the answer is a no, a capital No, actually.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that we haven't effectively utilized the 4G? Because
I'll come to that.
Okay.
So the 4G is a platform. We already have it here.
Yeah.
So it's not the platform is not the problem. It is the mindset, the thought process among businessmen, among business owners, to see the future coming. First of all, most of the people are blind to the future. They don't even know that there's a future. They can't even see it. A lot of businesses are so introspective. They are looking at themselves. They're looking at the next paycheck. They're looking at the next profit line. Okay. They're not even thinking next 3 years, next 5 years, next 10 years. So they're not futuristic. They're not futuristic in their planning and being very strategic, thinking, where is everything going? I give you a classic. So a newspaper once posted in a British tabloid that now that the internet is here, we'll sell more newspapers. I wanted to show you how dramatic technology has become.
Yeah.
However, around 2018, they folded up. Why? Because consumers don't need newspapers. They now read
so
online.
They weren't prepared.
They weren't prepared. So they saw the internet, the advent of the internet, as a tool to get their business moving forward. They didn't see the impact of that on their business.
The consumers, yeah. Okay.
That's a totally different way to say it. If they are seeing the impact, the potential hazard that so there's an opportunity, there's an upside, and there's a downside. Most Nigerian businesses are not thinking, and in my personal capacity and in my, coming from my background, I've had the opportunity to work and to lead teams about digital transformation. Because before you can talk of Internet of Things, we need to be digitally compliant and ready. We're not.
Let's talk about the 4G and the 5G.
Okay.
Yes, because that has been an issue for some time, yeah.
So when you talk about the 4G, and I say this with all true sense of responsibility, every technology has a percentage of, say, 5%, 2%, 3% downside in terms of what we call hazard. Even in your business, when you take a loan from the bank, there's a hazard you run. Because if you don't make the money, the bank forecloses and they take over your business.
Yeah.
So there's a downside to everything. So like also in technology. And right from the time we went into telecommunication, the world had evolved in telecommunication. We went from 1G, 2G, went from the normal,
Nokia, remember the, yes.
We went from the analog, box and handle kind of telephone where you had to tune it.
Yeah.
And then when the cell phone exploded the telecommunication space, we went from 1G to 2G to 3G. So when you hear all these 1G, 2G, 3G
so what is actually this What are the upgrades? Because how?
So the upgrade is just about. So the upgrade is about. So the upgrade is just. I'm trying to explain so that the layman can understand it. The upgrade is just about reducing what they call the wavelengths. So when sound moves or when waves move, they create what they call wavelengths, and this is purely in a science field. And I don't want to dwell too much so that people who don't understand it can carry on. And so when sounds move, they move in a wavelength. Now 1G has a bigger wavelength. It takes a longer loop. A longer time. Okay, yes, because there's a time factor. It's a longer time to complete the loop, and therefore it's slower. When you start reducing that wavelength, that's how we went from. So with each innovation, we call it a different name. Correct. So we call it from 1G, 2G, 3G light, 4G, 4G light. So 5G is just that we have now reduced it further, making it faster, and so the speed that data can be exchanged becomes like this. And the reason why 5G becomes very important is that 5G will enable the Internet of Things to kick in. Because when you now have data traveling virtually at the speed of sound. You are now no, it's almost at the speed of sound. So as you click, in seconds you finish your download. You can watch a movie for 10 hours, it's streaming, and you don't blink, it won't buffer. Yeah? So things are now happening real time. You then need, that will bring about the possibility or the takeoff of the Internet of Things.
Okay, we have a call.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Jennifer. I'm calling from Rivers State.
Okay, you're welcome, Jennifer. All right, what's your question or your contribution?
I'm guessing I can see you go. If I can see you guys.
Okay, Jennifer, go ahead. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm guessing if I can see you guys. I'd love to join all this USA. If it's possible, please.
I don't think. Okay, I don't think we can hear her properly. Okay, Jennifer, please try and call back. Let's try again. I think the network is not so good. Okay, so the transition, the wavelengths, and
okay, so at the time we go from 4G to 5G, same technology, literally. That the same source, just that
people are skeptical about. Does it have anything to do with the fact that it releases more radiation?
No.
Because of probably the speed?
No, it doesn't. It's been proved, unless I wake up tomorrow and there's a paper by the international bodies asserting that fact. The fact as we know it as today is that it's non-ionizing, simply means it does not generate, it doesn't have an offshoot of radiation when it happens. The radiation wavelength even is so small that, again, I'm going a bit too technical. The radiation wavelength is so small that it is not believed to be harmful to the human system. However, having said that, I'm not totally saying that it is 100% safe. I'm just saying maybe there's a 1% chance that that something might be wrong. It's insignificant compared to 99%. You see my point?
Yes.
Yeah. And so those who are in the field can tell you better. What I can tell you is that the 4G and the 5G are not too different. The only difference between both of them is that one has a shorter wavelength, is faster, and the other one is not. That's just it. And so most of the people that have issues around 5G, then you should have an issue around 4G. You should have an issue around 3G. Technology is what it is. Yeah, because it's the same source, the same radio wave that we use in 4G that we use in 5G. It's not as if 5G has a different radio wave.
Okay, we have another caller. Okay. Hello, Innocent.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Innocent. You're welcome. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Java, Lagos.
Okay, you're welcome to the program. All right, what's your question or your contribution?
Okay, I've been hearing a lot of talk concerning Internet of Things, and the guest you have in the house is actually showing more light on the Internet of Things. But I want to ask, as a Nigerian, and I want to know how are we really prepared to actually execute this Internet of Things, knowing fully well that we are a very religious country, and what's our approach? I just want to know what's our approach as Nigerians, and is it that if this Internet of Things is going to have a huge effect or in our economy, and how are we prepared for it?
All right, thank you, Mr. Innocent. Your question will be answered right away. Thank you.
Okay, so if I might address that.
Yeah.
Nigeria is not prepared because we're not thinking yet. Let me explain what I mean. So in 2018, two massive companies, I'm sure you're using a Samsung phone. Samsung invested about $400 million in a company, in a small startup called SmartThings.
Okay.
Google invested about $3 billion in another startup called Next. These two companies are companies that are championing the Internet of Things
In
the world. Why are they investing ahead of time? Why are they putting such humongous amount of money on those platforms? It is because, as I speak to you, the Internet of Things industry is believed to be worth about $44 trillion US.
Right now.
Right now. That is the opportunity, that's the upside. That is the value we businesses will have when we all fully get integrated, when things fully get integrated. And let me explain this. I'll expatiate further.
Yeah.
Imagine your bangle. If your bangle had a chip in it, yeah? That chip, which is like a sensor, monitors as you're sitting here, your heart rate, your breathing, your blood pressure, everything. And as it sits here, if for any reason that your heart rate starts dropping or your blood pressure just goes up, without you knowing, it can trigger a message. Imagine if you trigger a message to your doctor and sends an email and your phone, it triggers a message to your phone and your phone sends an email to your doctor. While you're sitting here, in real time, you have a solution to a problem that has not even shown.
Materialized.
That is the value of the Internet of Things, how fundamental to shift things. So the religious approach to it, I find funny, because everybody, I was explaining about Internet of People.
Yeah.
The religion did not know when we all got into the Internet of People, but they're using it. They didn't have a problem with it. Just imagine in your head, all we're doing is allowing things to talk to themselves, to interact, to communicate. That's all. That's just the difference between Internet of People and Internet of Things. But because some people have now interpreted it as the beginning of the end of the human race, and that's the color religion brings to it. And I'm not a geek. I'm just a techie guy. But as someone who understands how technology works, I ask one question: if you are scared of the Internet of Things, then you should be scared of using your cell phone, because your cell phone exposes you more and does a lot than you can imagine. Yeah? And if you can embrace a cell phone, then exactly the Internet of Things is the same seamless way. Yeah? And I want to read, because of the caller, let me read a quote that I had wanted to read before I came on the show. I was actually thinking about, the quote says, it was done by a man called Mark Weiser in the Scientific American Journal. It says, the most profound technologies are those that disappear. They weave themselves into the fabric of everyday life until they are indistinguishable from it. What is he saying? Today, nobody talks about Facebook, Instagram. We're all on it. That's technology. But because it has become part and parcel of our daily lives, it's gone. The
value.
It's gone. Just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
You are looking at Internet of Things now from a distance, and that's why we're having this debate. The moment it kicks off, we will all be on it and we will not even know. Everybody will just carry on. The difference is, like I said, is We are talking across the world as a people. Imagine when appliances start talking to themselves. Suddenly, traffic jam. Before you leave your house, your phone will alert you because it will give you the exact time that the traffic is going to take you, because this is not somebody saying it. It will happen online, real time. And the backbone of this happening is the 5G network, because it's going to make things faster.
Okay. We've talked a lot about the upside. What about
the downside?
Have looked. Okay.
Hello. Good morning.
Caller. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I like your program. Your program is very entertaining, and I'm informed too. But I have a question for your guest.
Okay. Okay. Ask your question. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I know because of this COVID now, I mean, most businesses are going internet, but I have one problem. Most times is the problem of trust. So sometimes I book for something online, but when they eventually now deliver the thing, it doesn't look like what I book for. So I don't know that. Who can I hold? Most times it's like as if I waste money.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
So what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Okay, so...
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll get your question answered right now.
So he's talking about one of the aspects of Internet of People.
Okay.
Yeah, not Internet of Things yet. So it's Internet of, that's e-commerce. Yeah, so e-commerce was made possible because we have the internet platform. So I'm sitting here, publish my cell phone, and somebody in Okokomaiko, without knowing me, without seeing the physical product, sees it online, decides to buy. Okay. But there's a caveat. So in marketing, they call it caveat emptor, buyer beware. Whatever you buy online,
a risk.
You run a risk, and that's kind of the risk you run. But that is in a country that is not structured. In standardized countries, yeah, in countries that have standard, you can't do that. Yeah, there's a return policy. So when I get it, and it's not what I thought it was, I can return it to you, and you give it my money without issues.
Okay, I think platforms like Jumia.
Yeah, so they've inculcated that.
Yes.
But before, it didn't used to be like that when they all started off. So
yes,
so that's where it's all going. So that one will be solved by regulation. I don't want to bother that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's still continue on the downside of internet.
Yeah. So
Internet of Things.
absolutely, there's a
Issue of
downside.
privacy,
Yeah, there's a downside.
the issue of loss of jobs.
Yes.
Because
that's a social issue.
Social issue. Yes.
Yeah. So
so how do we take care of these things before we,
So the issue of loss of jobs is, if you hear the clarion call today, if people will know what is coming. Imagine if you have the opportunity. Okay, let me say this. There's a formula I ran into while studying on a social science topic. That formula says W is equal to P plus T raised to power N.
Okay, what's that?
W meaning wealth of nations or wealth of individuals is equal to, physical resources, which is your P, plus technology raised to power N. The N is an exponential figure that shows how much you have embraced technology.
Okay.
Let me repeat. Wealth is equal to physical resources, your table, your chairs, your land, your house, your building. Physical plus human beings, physical resources plus T, which is technology raised to power N. The N on top is an exponential figure which determines how big you have embraced technology.
So the more you embrace technology,
good. The more you can then leverage your physical resources and become successful. I'm just trying to explain it that way. So if you're bothering with loss of jobs, I'm saying, hello, here comes a different future. The world has produced more billionaires in the past 10 years than we did in the past 50 years.
So how do we key into this so that we secure ourselves and our
And that's why I'm on this program.
Yes.
There is nothing evil with the Internet of Things. It brings with it, I've told you the value of that space. If you don't forget anything, don't forget this. There's a 44 trillion US dollars value in the next 5 years if it goes off, if it takes off. 44 trillion. That is a humongous amount of money. So, businesses, individuals should be asking themselves, I am asking myself the same question today. How do I strategically position myself
For that future.
for that future? That is already here. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter. We are not talking of months. We are not talking of years. We are talking of months. It's a matter of time. It will explode. Okay. How do I have a friend who is resigning from his job by September.
Why?
Because he is thinking of where this thing is going.
So has he already decided where?
Yeah, he decided where he wants to go with it. So most businesses will flip over.
So what are some of those areas or some of those things we should be looking at doing now?
Okay.
To rightly position
COVID
ourselves?
has, like I said, I'll go back to the COVID story.
Yes.
COVID has exposed the fact that, for argument's sake, I'm sorry to say, so you don't need the whole of this studio. The overhead cost of maintaining this studio simply goes away with Internet of Things. The things you do here can be done in one small room with 2, 3, 4 cameras. And you can do it yourself. You don't even need 3, 4, 5 people to do it for you. So from a business angle, there's a reduction of cost and more value, more output. From a personal angle, there's an opportunity for you to do it now and not work for Rave TV. You can actually do from your home and do other things. Because the time you're spending here is the opportunity cost of you working here. So you're investing time, your energy, your emotions. Now you can actually separate them. You can decide which one you want to monetize.
I can begin to train people too.
You can begin to train people. So suddenly, because we don't understand this thing also that time is a resource. Yeah. In fact, time is one of the most valued resources. Suddenly you have time. The other side of business has time, there's space. So it's going to make, I think for me, the downside is when we think of it in a negative light. I think the biggest problem I see is not the loss of jobs. The biggest problem I see is the problem with security and privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
For advanced countries, and I don't know whether you've heard that there was 3 Nigerians have been charged by the American government, FBI, for stealing $6 million US from identity theft crime. That can only be possible because they now have their system is geared towards that level. So that's one of the exposures. Yeah, the fact that people can. So when I steal, if I hack into your, because stealing in a sense, if I hack into your system, then I can take your information. I can then monetize it. That is the biggest challenge. And the people who are writing about internet are saying that data is the next generation gold or oil, because data, all these physical resources we do means nothing. Let me explain. So if I have oil inside this ground, and I don't have the technology to access the oil, then the oil is useless. I can't make money.
So I want to quickly ask, because I'm still coming back to the issue of what we have on ground in Nigeria. You know, what are those things? What do you advise the government now to do? Because from what you're saying now, the infrastructure has to be.
It's not there. So we don't even have
exactly.
lights. So light has to be there. They will need to upgrade our technology platform. We need to get to 5G quickly. The telcos play a vital role there. So I wouldn't even overstate that. And then I think for businesses, if I come back to businesses, I think the biggest challenge is that they need to see this technology. Especially
for small and medium scale businesses.
They need to see it as a platform, not as a tool. Because most businesses are treating it as a tool. They need to see that this is the platform on which my business will rest. This is the platform that makes my business successful. Yeah. Until it is seen like that, it's not going to work and might damage most businesses. You must see it as a tool. Oh. No, because they're going to see it as a tool. For argument's sake, I'm sure Rave TV has an online platform. Yeah. It has a social media handle. That's how you treat it.
Okay, one last word. You know, what do we do at this point? What's the way forward?
Investment in IT. No, I think the first thing is a step back. The very first thing is awareness, creating the awareness. Yeah. people need to be aware. I heard a young man talk about religious aspect of how we've seen the Internet of Things, the advent of the Internet of Things. No. I think the biggest challenge is first, create the awareness. Second, get the experts. Yeah? Business should employ those people who are very good at these things. Employ the experts. Third, have the political will, because that's one of the biggest challenges. Most business and most countries don't have the political will. Because if you have the political will, you put the investments in it. You do the appropriate investment in terms of human resource, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of capital, you put it there. When you know, I have just told you that Google invested $3 billion US in a small startup company because they're thinking of the future.
Yeah.
And you are wondering, are they mad? They are not. But you see, they are making that investment now, and in the next 5 years when things go boom, they are the ones to harvest. That is the way business becomes successful. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, that's not the way we think. We think about 1 year, 2 years. So people are thinking about my next paycheck, my next profit line. We're too busy with that, and we're not looking forward to how to sustain the business going forward.
Well, I believe that something will be done, or something is currently in the pipeline for that. You know,
I hope so.
At least the government is now aware, because thank God for COVID-19.
Yes.
You know, thank God the budget was revised, and a lot of light and a lot of attention has been put on technology.
Technology
they've made provisions for all
technology is
that.
the way forward, actually.
So we believe that, you know, we are stepping in the right direction. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Festus Akobundu. It was so informative, quite enlightening.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that was Mr. Festus Akobundu. We're looking at Internet of Things, how ready we are as Nigerian businesses. He's the media director of Mainsail Media Nigeria Limited, and he has been able to help us do justice somewhat to this crucial topic. So we must be aware of what is happening now. The Internet of Things has come to stay, and it will keep expanding and growing. So we must rightly position ourselves, get the right information, position our businesses so that we can make good money and take up, you know, let's use this opportunity and get things right. And of course, make profits, you know, in the long run. We must not be caught unawares. Yeah, thank you so much. This is all it is for today on Your Business on Rave TV. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for those that called. Thank you so much. Tomorrow is another day. Join us same time, same station, where we'll bring to you yet another exciting and interesting topic of discussion. All right, until then, I'm yours truly, Cindy Eze, and I'm saying, remember that your business is our business.